Yonder spoilers reveal Sharon continues her dark plots, her crimes increasing with Cameron's provocation. Sharon Newman, a woman who has been through many events, is being drawn into a dangerous vortex without even realizing it. Deep under Sharon's fragile exterior is an obsession and fear that is gradually becoming more evident, especially when Cameron Kirsten, a ghost from the past, has returned and begun to control her life. Sharon has had tumultuous days after returning to Genoa City. She once thought that everything would gradually stabilize, but the return of Cameron, who once sowed terror in her life, has turned everything upside down. Cameron not only wants to reappear in Sharon's life but also wants to control her completely. With his ingenuity and deep understanding of Sharon's psychology, Cameron has begun a dark plan to turn Sharon into a tool to destroy Phyllis Summers. Phyllis has always been a thorn in Sharon's side. Their strained relationship is not only due to personal disputes, but also related to the complexities of the relationships surrounding Nick Newman, the man both women once loved. For Phyllis, things have never been simple. She is determined and not afraid to fight to protect the people she loves, especially her son Daniel, who is accused of murdering Heather Stevens. However, in this story, Phyllis has no idea that she is becoming the target of a ruthless plan, masterminded by Cameron himself. Sharon once thought she had escaped Cameron's clutches, but the reality was far from it. Cameron, who had been obsessed with Sharon, returned unexpectedly and dangerously. At first, Sharon thought she was going through a psychological crisis. She began to see Cameron in her dreams and moments when she was alone in her thoughts. But then, gradually, Cameron no longer appeared only in her imagination. He began to appear before her, as vivid and present as ever. For Sharon, she could not distinguish between what was real and what was imaginary. The hauntings of the past returned to torment her, and she began to believe that Cameron had really come back to haunt her. But what Sharon did not know was that Cameron had begun to invade her mind on purpose, leading her into a deadly plan. Cameron understood that Sharon was a vulnerable woman, especially after the tragedies she had experienced. He knew that, in order to completely control her, he had to make her believe that Phyllis was her real enemy. And from there, Cameron began to use sweet but poisonous words to trap Sharon. One evening when Sharon felt weak and vulnerable, Cameron appeared to her, telling her that Phyllis was trying to ruin her life. "She's always trying to bring you down, Sharon. She won't stop until you lose everything. You have to protect yourself," Cameron whispered in Sharon's ear, in a soft but powerful voice. At first, Sharon resisted. She knew that Cameron's words weren't true. But gradually, over many meetings, Cameron began to plant seeds of doubt and hatred in Sharon's mind. She began to believe that Phyllis was actually the biggest threat to her life, that if she didn't get rid of her, Sharon would never be able to live in peace. Nick, who had always been on Sharon's side, sensed a change in her. Sharon became insecure and no longer herself. Nick often asked Sharon what was bothering her, but Sharon never told him the truth. She knew that if she revealed that Cameron was haunting her, Nick wouldn't believe her. Sharon was afraid that Nick would think she had completely lost control of her mind. Instead of speaking out, Sharon decides to keep things to herself and continues to get involved in Cameron's scheme. During a tense conversation at the park, Sharon finally confesses to Nick that Daniel came to her house and confronted her about Heather's death. Nick is not surprised by this, but he is even more worried when he sees Sharon becoming more distant and obsessed with Phyllis. Nick tries to dissuade her from believing Phyllis's baseless accusations, but Sharon is so manipulated by Cameron that she can no longer tell the truth. Under Cameron's constant pressure, Sharon begins to plot Phyllis's murder. In her manipulated mind, Sharon believes that killing Phyllis is the only way to protect herself and those she loves. Cameron does not stop at psychologically pushing Sharon, but also creates situations that make Sharon believe that she has no other choice. Cameron remains in the shadows, continuing to watch the developments with satisfaction. He knew that Sharon was completely under his control and that just one more small step would complete his plan. Subscribe to Yonder for the latest news on our channel.